All right, so I will call this BOCES board meeting to order. Item 1, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Meaning, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 2, approval of the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 3, approval of the minutes from the October 17th, 2022 meeting.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes from 10/17/2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, on to item number 4, Treasurer's Report. Mrs. Wallace.
Madam Chair, members of the board, your balance in the BOCES fund as of the end of November was $201,307.11. You can see there during the month of November your major receipts from the Carbon County Treasurer and interest income. Your receipts for December were about double that, and that's normal for us to get that. In section 3 are your investments at their various rates, and Wildstar has finally gotten up over 2.5%. We're at 2.9, creeping up on that 3% rate of return. Any questions regarding your treasurer's report?
No. Okay. You guys have any questions?
I'm just having trouble. I keep coming up with just the main board minutes. The main board meeting, no matter where I go.
That's funny, it kicked me out. I was in the wrong meeting just a minute ago. So I do have a hard copy.
I'll re-enter.
And here's a hard copy of BOCES.
The simple agenda, if you need you want to try and see if it will work again.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back in. There's
I think that one is your board docs.
which one?
Oh, that says bookmarks, doesn't it? Login page, right, that one is.
There we go.
It's kind of tricky because BOCES is at the bottom, but then it,
See, here it says BOCES, but main governing board.
oh, well, I'm not sure why that says that there.
Just don't look at it.
This
Okay,
is the BOCES
here it
agenda.
is.
And don't touch it, Joe.
All right, so on to item number 5, consideration of the bills.
Madam Chairman, I motion that we pay the bills. November BOCES fund, $4,734.32. December BOCES fund, $22,075.31 for a grand total of $26,809.63.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the bills in the amount of $26,809.63. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. All right, on to item number 6, BOCES Director Report. Mrs. Erickson.
Madam Chairman and board members, I'll just give you a brief review of what I sent to you on the email. I've been cleaning out the office and sorting through things. I've gotten a lot of the things out to the schools, kind of our educational tools, and we're actually going to use some of them, I think, for the kindergarten readiness program. Hopefully, if we do it in Indiana and in Medicine Bow. I cleaned out the back of there's that little room in the back of the office to maybe use as a classroom, to do some things in there. We had some property of Western Wyoming in there that was taking up space, so I'm working on getting that back to them. Kindergarten readiness, Encampment got going in November with their readiness, and I've been working with Melissa Spalding. She's helping me kind of go through things and tell me what take homes they've had in different months, so she can say, okay, in January, these are the things we usually get, and in February, these are the things, so that I kind of have a roadmap for my other schools of what I need to buy them and that kind of thing. So she's been super, super helpful. She's also shared some things for the parent binders so that the other schools can look through it and see what tools they maybe want to use out of that, because her program is pretty established. And then the other teachers kind of vary off of that with what they want. Let's see. I've been talking to Hannah. I visited with them right away. And we started talking about what they could possibly do, and they mainly wanted to know what BOCES would pay for and the kinds of things we would take care of, so they could understand what they could use. So that's kind of how they came up with their plan.
And this is for the kindergarten readiness?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. Western Wyoming Community College outreach. So Mr. Manning and I had a meeting with Alex Schumacher shortly after I was hired to discuss the outreach in our area. They had some concerns about whether they still wanted us to do that, I guess, kind of. But we said that we did still want to do our own dual enrollment. And so Alex trained me, and she's kind of my number one contact if I have any questions on anything, and she got me going on Colleague too, and Colleague is a really critical part of dual enroll. A student can put something in dual enroll and you can approve it, but you might go to Colleague and they're still not in the class. So they don't really talk to each other very efficiently yet. It's just one of those software issues they're working on, and they'll continue working on over time. But you really have to, once you register a student, you really have to go into Colleague and actually make sure they're all in the classes that it says they're in dual enroll, which is, it's just not they just don't talk well together. So that's been interesting, because that's just a really critical part, and could have possibly, caused a few issues in the past that maybe were happening. Alex?
So exactly, when you say that, it's like, okay, it's like the Zoom or something, where you can participate in a class while it's being lectured? Is that what we're talking about?
No, I'm just talking about colleagues. So when they register for classes, they get on and dual enroll, and they say, I want to register for this class, and the counselor approves it. Well, then I get into Colleague and I check the enrollment for that class to make sure that teacher actually has them in the class schedule around the list.
So can you make changes in Colleague?
Yes,
Yes,
they've trained me how
Okay.
to make changes in there, so that or let's say a class is full, I can get on a Colleague and check their wait lists and see if there are other sections available, and then actually take them out of that section if I talk to the counselor and the student and they're okay with that, and put them in a different section. So yeah, Colleague is I don't know why it's called that, but it's just another part of dual enroll that's really critical to make sure that once the student has registered for a class and it says complete on the screen, the counselor's seeing it, I'm seeing it, the student's seeing it. Once you get into Colleague, all bets are off sometimes. So you go to the class and you make sure they're enrolled and they're on the list of students in that class.
Okay.
So Alex also told me about, we get the $15,000 from Western Wyoming, and that's what they call a contractual payment. And so I have to invoice them every year to get that payment. And I can do it anytime after the first of the fiscal year, and ours hadn't been done this year yet. So she said, make sure you need to do this, so I appreciated that. So we invoiced that already for them. And that's essentially just for my outreach services for them, is what that payment is for.
Okay.
So they also talked about some other outreach kind of things. Mr. Manning and I told them we'd wait for now. We felt we kind of had our hands full with dual enrollment already. So I might speak with her about a few more things in the spring. you know, I think it would be more of like getting our adult learners, you know, if they wanted to come in to visit with me about classes and helping them get registered. Some training on that kind of thing. So we might be doing that in the spring. Then, so in the dual enrollment process, that was when I realized we had the kind of the different things going on at the different schools, and got to looking into that. And I've studied a lot of numbers and the handbook. So the draft of the, what do you call it? Procedure. I want to call it a policy, but it's not a policy. The draft of the procedure that I came up with, I put quite a bit of thought into. So I did quite a bit of calculations with the numbers and stuff. So that I've spent a great deal of time this month just working on that. I also submitted the F-32, that's just a financial report for special districts that's required. We were a little late on that, but no one would have known that, you know, since we didn't have anyone in the position. So next year by September 30th, I'll have to get that F-32 submitted. But Sally gathered up my numbers quick for me and I was able to get that in, so no big deal there. Other than that, it's just been super busy, but it's been great. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you guys have
Any questions?
I appreciate all the information you share with us because I feel like I understand way more than I ever have understood, so
Oh, good.
thank you.
Okay, and we will get the opportunity to talk more about the dual enrollment under new business. So, which, is there any audience comments? No, okay. There's also no unfinished business, so we'll move on to item number 9 under new business. Item A, approve the procedure regarding dual enrollment. I do really appreciate all your hard work, Stacy, on that. I also understand it a lot better, and just it's interesting to me that all the different campuses were operating under different guidelines. You know, I think one school was operating under like 4 classes total in their high school career, and then another campus was, you know, kids were taking upwards of like 10 classes. And so I think also what was also really enlightening to me is how our budget or our line items are the amount that we spent each year on dual and concurrent enrollment, like more than doubled in just a couple of years. So I don't know how we were going to maintain what we were doing. So I think it's you know, as great as it is to allow students to take as many classes as they want, I just don't think it's practical. So from my viewpoint and things that I heard, that was a concern, was the financials, but also that by taking so many dual and concurrent classes, that the electives, there weren't really always enough kids in the electives to make those classes successful. So those are just a couple of things that I didn't know about. So Stacy, would you mind going over some of the items that are in this procedure?
Yep. So, let's see. So on the first sentence, Carbon County School District number 2, high school students will be given the opportunity to take a total of 4 dual enrollment classes, regardless of credit weight of the class. I think that was pretty much just for simplicity, because you do have a couple 4 credit classes that kids will take every now and then, but I didn't, not enough that I feel like the expense of a 4 credit class versus a 3 credit class is a big deal. During their junior and senior years, students may make special written requests. I said special written requests simply because to make it a little more limiting. This procedure is still middle ground. We still may find that even this is too expensive. It just depends on how many students participate. We've been having about 50% participation with our juniors and seniors. So if we had a particularly active junior and senior class across the district, 4 would maybe be all we could afford, but I didn't want to immediately go from in one school having unlimited to going most restrictive. So this it was middle ground, and so we'll have to keep looking at it, I think. Put in there students who have already taken 6 dual enrollment classes prior to the fall of 2023 may make special written requests to the BOCES director to take an additional 2, again with signed permission of the high school counselor and principal. We want our principals and our counselors to have some say in that if it's really affecting their electives, whether it's the 4 to the 6 or those. There's actually only, when I looked this weekend, I think there are only actually 2 students that are at that 6 mark that we'll be looking at this fall that might request to take 2 more. I didn't feel good about just saying, okay, we're sorry, you're done, because we've created this new policy. But to the best of my knowledge, from what I could tell, that only involves 2 students, and then after this year, that sentence won't even need to be in there anymore. That's just to cover those few students that already were maxed out, to give them opportunity to still have something in their senior year. Let's see, we have the sentence about if academic circumstances require an additional course. So our English 1010, if you have an ACT below 18, and let's say you took some of the other tests and tried to get a higher score and it didn't work, you would have to take English 1010 and that English 1011 writing enhancement together. So because you would have to do that and don't have a choice with an ACT under 18, we felt that would count as one class instead of 2. I specifically we talked through all of this, the students, or the principals and I, but so students are encouraged to enroll in math and English credit classes. That is what, we would prefer that it's kind of your core classes, but according to the state statute, we really can't limit them from taking the elective type of classes. So although we probably would if we could, because of the state statute, we'll have to allow the elective classes. This principal specifically did not want classes in the summer. I think that's kind of a staffing issue. The counselors then would have to be, they would still have to be watching after these students in the summer, and if they weren't organized and then they wanted to, register last minute or something, so they didn't like that option. And then if a student drops a dual class after the date of full refund, that class will count as one of students' 4 allowed classes, and that does happen. We paid for a number of them last semester that were dropped and they didn't drop them in time. So I just wanted to start with kind of a middle ground policy where we weren't at the least number of classes, but we were restricting it from unlimited. And we visited the principals, and Mr. Manning and Mr. James, we visited about quite a while and talked about a number of different things, but we did agree that we adjusted a few things in there, but that was an acceptable starting point.
I think, Chairman, members of the board, I think, at first thought, it would be nice if our kids could take an unlimited number of college classes. But number one, our budget can't support it. We just were really caught off guard by how much we owed based on our college registration. And then our elective classes really take a hit when you take kids out of electives and you might only have 3 kids in an ag class or 2 kids in an ag class, and so you can't have both unlimited college and then offer all the electives we have. We can't pay the college costs and the teacher salaries, and so I think this is a good middle ground. And I think will we come back in a year and maybe look at adjusting it after we have a good handle on the budget? We might, because you do what's best for kids, and if we have to revisit this, we can. But we just had to start somewhere, and this just felt right. And there was some principals that really wanted unlimited, and there were principals that wanted wanted this, and then we felt like this was just a good starting point, I guess.
In statute, maybe this was already stated, but statute requires that we allow students a minimum of 4 classes. So we are kind of, I feel like, at the bottom with, and then potentially allowing the extra 2.
But actually from, the amount of money that we have right now, and I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Sally, the BOCES board is not allowed to carry.
Yeah, statutory, if I may, Madam Chair, statutorily, the BOCES board is only supposed to receive tax revenue that will meet its expenses. That there's a cash carryover, that there's not a statutory cash carryover. Stacy and I've talked about having $30,000 or $50,000 as a carryover, kind of being the 90-day, what auditors recommend, that you have a 90-day operating cost. And I think 30 to 50,000 would meet that. So having more than that in your BOCES carry forward balance is really too much, to put it bluntly. You really need to be spending down your balance. But that doesn't say that you have $200,000 in there now. You don't have to spend it tomorrow to get it down to that 50,000. I mean, we built it up over a few years. You can spend it down over a few years, but don't feel bad if you're spending more than you're taking in for the current fiscal year, because you need to reduce that balance and get it back more in line with what statute reflects. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we will have the finances to meet the needs for a year or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when we reduce our reserves, we do it thoughtfully and with purpose. And then, because yes, we could allow our students to continue doing it unlimited, but we're going to use that up in a snap. And then what? Then we don't really have a plan. So
Right. No, and I agree with you, but I also can agree with the electives, because I have connections with those people in the elective classes that, trying to get students to take those sometimes is a challenge.
right.
So yeah, we don't want to draw too heavily. I agree with you there.
With the reserve that we have, is this regenerated every year? Meaning, we have this pot of money this year, next year, are we still going to have that? Or are we going to set kids up for thinking they're going to be able to take all these classes and then we not have that? You know what I mean? Is there a...
Just depends on property taxes. The revenue, most of our revenues come from property taxes, so we can count on revenue from that. It's just how much does that change from year to year?
Mine went up, just so you know.
But I think along those plans, the plan that we have in place, this procedure, I think does allow for us to feel comfortable about implementing something like this and being able to maintain it for the foreseeable future. But that is one reason why we scaled back, because what we were doing wouldn't have been.
Right. Okay. I know there's no guarantee or anything, but I know how parents and kids get if they're the next year, if we don't have the funds, they're going to wonder why they had it last year but not this year.
Right. Yeah. So I have a question about the amendment. Is that an amendment to, or I'm sorry, is there the procedure? Sorry, I'm talking about the procedure. The procedure, is that an amendment to our manual, or what?
I was planning on just to add it.
Just, this would be a procedure that gets added
To the
our
current manual, because I looked at the current manual, I really like it. It matches everything that state statute and the state statute has and the documents that they have put out. So I really like our manual. So yeah, my plan was just to have them add this into it, if that works with everyone.
So that would be an amendment, amending what you currently have. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll just maybe a couple of things that I'll mention of comments that have been mentioned to me is if a student fails a class, like if they can take another one. And based on my discussions with Stacy, we can't limit them based on state statute. That if they fail it and they want to take another class, that they would be entitled to do so. And then the other thing was the electives. Like you said, it's ideal that students take core classes, but we also can't make them, like mandate that they take those, but we can encourage them to take those, you know, that kind of thing. So both of those comments were, comments that I got from Mr. Johnson up at the high school, so.
Now, a failed class would count towards their four total.
Yeah, but they can continue taking them and failing them, so.
And I do want to ask some other BOCES what they're doing. I do wonder if, once we're past that 4, if we could put like a GPA limit on it and say, you know, if you have a 3.5, then you may request to take an additional 2 or whatever that GPA counselors think it should be. I would like to kind of look into that, see if anyone is doing that, and maybe visit with the lawyer and see what they think about that, because mainly the state statute seems to be just talking about our minimum 4. So I don't know, I think the principals would appreciate that if we had something.
Yeah, I think both of those make a lot of sense, but we just can't mandate those requirements. So do either of you guys have any comments on this? Mr. Erickson or Mr. Manning? No? I feel like it's all been covered. Okay. All right.
So we need a motion for this?
Yes.
I move that we add this regulation or procedure, this procedure to the BOCES manual, operating manual.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the procedure regarding dual enrollment. And seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, on to item 9B, approve proposed kindergarten readiness program for Northern Elementary Schools.
So I was hoping Laura would be here. So when I visited with her and the kindergarten teacher, Tara, she just said, okay, so, you know, what type of things does BOCES pay for? What would we be responsible for? So we just kind of had a basic conversation about how they could get started and what things they could be thinking about. And then this proposal that she submitted, that was the direction they took with it. And personally, as the BOCES director, I'm really happy with it. They have a situation where they did have a preschool, but it is no longer a licensed preschool, so they need those options for their kids over there to get a new preschool. And Tara told me that like she's spending the first 6 months of school getting the kindergartners up to the point where they should be ready to start kindergarten. So she's spending a great deal of time getting those kids going. And so that was where this came from. We talked about so our kindergarten programs pretty much, the teachers meet with the parents and they kind of train them on how to work with their kids. And then an aide or me, I work with the little kids and we just maybe do a little activity or something. But the main part of it is the teacher working with the parents, helping them to do what they need to do to help their student get ready. Well, in this case, they just want to have a parent meeting and give them those parent binders, which gives them all kinds of things to help their child learn, whatever the teacher prefers to put in there that they want to focus on most. Because I think at our schools, each one is different, but they feel the kindergarten kindergartners need to be prepared for. So for this program, for the Northern Elementary, they're looking at just having parent binders with just a parent meeting, not meeting with the parents, but then actually teaching the kindergarten students and getting them prepared that way rather than having the parent do it. So that is how this program is different than the other two.
So in other words, the teacher and the aide would actually be meeting with the student, or with the kids.
Yeah,
I don't want to say students because you're not really
right,
in school yet, but this is
yeah,
just to teach them what, the alphabet and
write their
colors.
name and, yeah, just your basic recognize the letters of the alphabet and that kind of thing. So the parents would still get a binder with things they could do with their child to help them learn, but the teacher and the aide would mainly be focusing on the students. And so we provide food in encampment and Saratoga. In Saratoga, they just provide students in the little classroom with the little kids. And in encampment, we do it for the adults and the kids, whatever the teachers want works best. And in this situation, they just asked, can you provide a snack for those little ones when they come in? And I said, sure, we can do that. So what we would be paying for would be the snacks and the teacher and the aide time, their salaries, and then the take homes. And that's, even though we would be doing this on a different scale, on a weekly scale rather than a monthly, I actually counted up the take homes, and it works out perfectly that the same take homes that the other schools are getting, if I just send home one of those a week with the students on their end, it equals out. Because I want them all to be getting the same learning tools. So I think both options are great. The 2-day a week or the 3-day a week. It will be interesting to see, how many, if you choose to do it, how many parents actually decide to use that service. Because
Until we do it, we
Right.
won't know.
Right. So I'm perfectly happy with either one. They obviously feel that the kids could use 3 days a week to get them up to where they need to be.
So you are recommending that we move forward with this, but
Yes.
you've given us two different options, the 2-day-a-week option and the 3-day weekend option to pick from and the associated costs.
Yes. Yeah, and remember those, the total salary cost on those, that's just per school, so it's actually double that. So it's $5,280 for the 2-day a week. For the 3-day a week, it's $7,440.
Okay. Yeah, I did not realize that, so thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, and when I initially talked to her, I didn't know about the Elk Mountain program. I didn't know they were willing to do one. I was just going to maybe send backpacks home with those children to get the learning tools they needed. But then she said she heard from them and they were really interested. So I actually didn't know about their participation in this until last week.
Okay.
So this would be Elk Mountain and Hannah.
Yeah.
And what about Medicine Bow?
I'm assuming she visited with all of them, and I'm assuming they didn't choose to participate.
Okay.
And this would be starting the first week in January. So really quick turnaround. But I also had the same question of have you talked to the parents and, have you received a lot of interest? Is there, a lot of buy-in and whatnot, but we don't really know at this point.
No.
That's
Yeah.
happened, so. But, at the top it says it potentially could serve 8 to 11 kids.
Right. And Tara said she had visited with a few of the parents, and she said they were not at all aware that kids had to show up to kindergarten, be prepared to do all these different things. So she actually said she might visit with the daycare too and just point out to them that there are a lot of things that the kids need to be ready to do when they get to kindergarten, just to give them a heads up. She said, I don't know that it will change anything and that they're not going to probably become a preschool, but just so that they know, and people can be informed.
Mr. Jennings, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just have a question for Stacy. Will Tara be providing the teaching to both Hannah and Elk Mountain, or is there a separate Elk Mountain teacher?
I think there's a separate Elk Mountain teacher. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, that was a question I was gonna have, are we using existing teachers and aides? Or, I know a lot of the aides are under the full-time limit. Is that going to put them possibly put them up to full-time status?
Well, you don't have, in the north end, excuse me, Madam Chair, you don't have the classroom aides in the north that you have sped aides. So I don't know if they're going to be using, well, no, because BOCES is a separate employer.
So it's more
So they're getting-
contract labor.
Yeah, sorry, backtrack. Let me think.
Just talk through it.
Yeah, I'm just talking through it, but BOCES is a completely separate employer, so it won't affect that.
Okay, getting back to, so this is supposed to start in January. Are all the pieces in place yet, or or do we have the?
I was preparing for something, I wasn't sure what, so.
I know you are, but I just wonder if the other end, the teachers and the aides and principals, are they on board with all that too to get that going? Or is that gonna be all up to you?
I think they're prepared. As soon as we decide what we're gonna do, then I will find out who that teacher is on the other end and email her and make sure she's ready to go. But, you know, when I talked to Mrs. Nicewonder, you know, because we were only planning on it for the one building, and then we're kind of trying to figure out alternative plans for the other buildings if we couldn't figure something out. And then she said, well, you know, they want to do it too. So I'm assuming they're ready and with all those details as well, so.
How expensive are the other kindergarten readiness programs?
That is a good question.
I thought maybe it was something I should have already known, so I was kind of hesitant to.
No, that is another one of those things we kind of we need to get a number on, really, but again, it's gonna be really flexible too, because like in Saratoga, we prepare for 15. So she hopes for 15, and then at any individual meeting, she may have 6, she may have 9. So we just make sure we have enough take-home tools for 15 at all times. Encampment, we work more on a basis of 10. We prepare for 10, and then we may have 3, we may have 5. So this will be the same situation. We'll just have to prepare for a certain number. And that's why those storage areas at the schools are important, because then they can just keep what they have left, use it the next year.
But this would be more, I guess, I don't know, just guessing how many kids you're gonna have, because this is more teacher time, wouldn't you say, than the other ones are? Or, so that's where more of the expense is gonna be if you.
Right. Yeah, and I can't give you a number on that. I'm not sure what a year would look like.
Well, I think,
I can give you year-to-date here.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I think when looking at our student data for our northern elementary schools, I think our program, our kinder readiness program, could be a little bit more robust up there, just to help prepare our kids a little bit more. Unlike Charlie, I think it needs to be very organized and very ready to go, because we're starting right up. But we may have to pay a little bit more money for the northern elementary schools, just because there's just a higher need. And, I guess I would take that into consideration.
Yeah, these costs in here are just if it's in place and ready to go, and they're doing the 2 hours or 1 hour twice a week or whatever. So
And
there's no buffer or anything in there that I see for gearing up to it or winding down. So I know it's going to be more than what we're seeing here.
Yeah, last year, you spent about $6,000 Saratoga and encampment, and let me see if I kept the other one open. We spent $6,000 in Saratoga and $3,600 in encampment, and I don't see anything in Hannah as far as last year goes. And then this year so far, she's already gotten some supplies for Hannah, kindergarten readiness, so we're looking at 1,400 for Hannah, 2,000 for Saratoga, and 1,875 is what's been spent so far this year. So you have gotten some supplies for Hannah to begin, right, Stacy?
Yeah, I have enough so that if they're ready in January, if they need to, if any of them need to wait till later, that's perfectly fine, but at least on my end, I have what I need for them to get going, so.
One thing I would note, Charlie, is in the document, it says that there's 16 hours of planning. So I do think that there is some money, maybe not enough in there to, get started and allow teachers to prep.
Yes, there is. I see that now.
Do you think it's better to start off with the 3 or is it 2 or 3? I don't know. The 36 sessions or the 54? Do you think that many times a week may be much for kids, or do you think it's good for kids, or it's hard to,
Yeah,
I don't know how to think between them.
When I was thinking of the difference between the 36 and the 54, just first reading it, I did wonder if maybe that would be too much. If parents, would actually want to bring their child 3 days a week for that. So obviously they feel I think they probably would prefer that's what they feel they need to get them ready.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a preference myself. I want to. I don't know. I was kind of hoping you guys would decide. I'm just not sure.
It's such a new program. We've
Right.
never done it before.
It was even,
So it makes-
want to see if it even works, are any kids gonna show up? It's just, because you would think, honestly, we would have, and even in Saratoga and in Camet, you would think we would have a lot more kids come than do. So I do hope, I'm just hoping that we have some that are like, let's use this opportunity, so.
Well, and it might be hard, that's what, like with parents working and stuff like that, timing wise, sometimes that is, if they're working or they can't. If they're at daycare, if you could, I don't know how you can do it with that, or I don't know, but
Right.
I don't know.
I guess, all we can do is try it, and they can adjust from there and see.
What would you think about budgeting for 3 days to start with? I think it'd be easier to back down a day than it would be to add a day.
So you're saying kind of like, let's plan on 3 days. If 3 days seems to be too much, then we can kind of back off and the cost would follow. I definitely think it's a good program to implement and bring those kids, at kindergarten level, or at least try and,
Because I'm amazed. From the time that I went to school, kindergarten, you basically just learn to interact with other kids.
And eat pace.
Now, the kindergarten kids are reading. And, but it's like I've talked to some of the kindergarten teachers here, just the difference between the 2 preschools here in Saratoga. There's a substantial difference in the preparedness of the students. So, and then in fact, I remember talking to, name's escaping me right now, in Medicine Bow, the multi-grades. And, there was a kindergarten kid that absolutely knew nothing, no colors, letters, nothing, and then trying to adapt the curriculum to them, plus then you had a kindergartner who was, very well prepared. And, the challenge to kindergarten teachers to bring kids up to speed is, especially when you have multiple. But I don't know if this is gonna alleviate that or not, because it still depends on parent participation.
Didn't you say that Tara's spending a lot of time getting these kids up to, so
Yeah.
they're playing catch-up already in kindergarten, and that's gonna follow them all the way through school, so, yeah, I'm for this kindergarten readiness thing.
Is there a motion?
We just said it.
So moved.
Which option?
You're gonna have to use other words.
I propose, or make a motion that we start the kindergarten readiness with 3 days, with the option to go backwards if we have to, down to 2 days.
Second.
And we would back off on that if there wasn't the participation that we had hoped for.
Yeah, participation or kids or however it might.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the proposed kindergarten readiness program for the northern elementary schools. That would include both HES and EMES with the 3-day-a-week option, with the potentially backing off if necessary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, our next regularly scheduled meeting is January 16th at Medicine Bell Elementary School at 2:45. Adjourn the meeting.